Your body is lying to you right now, in this very moment, as you listen to these words, as your heart beats in your chest, as your breath moves through your lungs without your conscious command. It tells you that you are tired when in truth you are simply untrained, that you are anxious when you stand in perfect safety, that you are hungry when your stomach is already full, that you are weak when you possess capabilities you have never tested, and that you are in mortal danger when you are merely uncomfortable, when you're simply facing the edge of your familiar world. It begs you, pleads with you, screams at you to stay small, to stay warm, to stay silent, to remain exactly where you are, because once upon a time, in a world that no longer exists, comfort meant survival, and stillness meant you would live to see another sunrise. But here is the truth that no one wants to hear, the truth that will shake the foundation of everything you believe about yourself. The instincts that once saved your ancestors from the jaws of predators and the cold grip of starvation are now sabotaging you, quietly, systematically, every single day. The fear you feel when you stand before an opportunity, when you face the possibility of rejection, when you consider speaking your truth to the world, that fear is nothing more than a leftover alarm system, a relic from an ancient time, still ringing in a building that has long been abandoned. The cravings you fight every evening, the pull towards sugar and salt and comfort and distraction. These are ancient biological scripts written for a world where scarcity was the norm and abundance was a fantasy. A world that has vanished into the mists of history, but whose programming still runs in your cells. Your body protects you from threats that disappeared 10,000 years ago. And in doing so, it blinds you completely to the challenges you desperately need to face, the growth you desperately need to pursue, the person you desperately need to become. Your body is lying to you. And if you learn to understand these lies, if you learn to decode the ancient language of instinct and impulse, you will realize something profound, something that will change the trajectory of your entire existence. Your body is not wrong. It is simply outdated, operating on software designed for a world that no longer exists. And mastering it, rather than blindly obeying its every whisper and command, might just save your life, might just unlock the version of yourself that you have always sensed was possible but could never quite reach. Act 1. The body's deception. Let me tell you about the morning that changed everything. The morning when I finally understood the nature of the cage I've been living in. The alarm shatters the silence at 5:30 in the morning, and immediately, before your conscious mind has even fully emerged from the fog of sleep, your body begins its ancient routine of resistance, flooding your system with signals of fatigue, heaviness, the overwhelming sense that you need more rest, that you deserve more comfort, that surely getting up this early cannot be necessary. You reach for your phone, and within seconds you are scrolling through an endless stream of carefully curated lives, watching other people's highlight reels while your own potential remains locked inside you, and your body sighs with relief because scrolling requires no risk, no effort, no possibility of failure or rejection or pain. This is the world we have created, a world where your brain, that magnificent 3-pound universe of neurons and synapses that once navigated you through forests filled with predators and across landscapes that could kill you with cold or starvation, now navigates you through the infinite comfort of modern existence. And it does so using the exact same mechanisms, the exact same ancient programming. Your brain is not a happiness machine, though we desperately want it to be. It is a survival machine, a prediction engine designed with one primary directive: keep you alive until tomorrow. And it accomplishes this through a simple strategy that has worked for hundreds of thousands of years. Prioritize comfort, conserve energy, avoid uncertainty, stay with the tribe, do not take unnecessary risks. Your ancestors, the ones who survived long enough to pass their genes to you, lived in a world where the instinct to avoid discomfort and seek the path of least resistance, the urge to stay in bed just a little longer, to skip the workout, to avoid the difficult conversation, to choose the easy path over the meaningful one. This avoidance is your brain's energy preservation instinct, designed for a world where calories were currency and every expenditure had to be justified by survival. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled Rome while facing plague and war and betrayal, understood this truth when he wrote in his private journals. If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. And if it is truly unendurable, well, then it will end one way or another. He understood that most of what we fear, most of what we avoid, most of what our bodies tell us we cannot handle is not only endurable, but necessary, not only survivable, but transformative. ACT2. The 5 biological lies. Lie number 1. You're too tired. Your body tells you that you are tired, that you do not have the energy for the workout, for the project, for the challenge ahead. And you believe this lie because it feels so real, so physical, so undeniable. But fatigue, in the modern world where most of us are not actually depleted of calories or recovering from physical trauma, is not a measure of your energy reserves. It is a measure of your nervous system's comfort with a particular level of demand. It is your body's way of protecting the status quo, of keeping you exactly where you are, because change, even positive change, registers as threat. When you have never run more than a mile, your body will tell you at half a mile that you are finished, that you have reached your limit, that continuing would be dangerous. But this is a lie designed to protect energy stores for potential future threats that are not coming. Your nervous system is not measuring what you are capable of. It is measuring what you have trained it to accept as normal. What you have taught it through repeated experience is the boundary of your world. This is why the first week of any new discipline feels impossible. Why every morning of early rising feels like torture. Why the beginning of any transformation is marked by overwhelming resistance. Your body is not telling you the truth about your capabilities. It is lobbying for the familiar, negotiating for the comfortable, protesting the unknown. Line number 2. You need this comfort. We have built an entire civilization around the pursuit of comfort, around the elimination of discomfort, around the idea that happiness comes from the absence of challenge, from the presence of ease, from the perfect temperature and the soft cushion and the endless entertainment. But comfort, pursued as an end in itself, becomes a cage, a prison made of cushions, a trap that feels so pleasant that you do not realize you're stuck until you try to move and find that your muscles have atrophied. Your will has weakened, your capacity has diminished. There's a principle in biology called hormesis, the phenomenon where organisms become stronger, more resilient, more capable when exposed to moderate stressors. The muscle that is torn through resistance training grows back. Stronger, the immune system that encounters pathogens develops antibodies. The mind that faces challenges develops wisdom and courage. Your body needs stress, controlled stress, voluntary stress, chosen adversity, not the chronic stress of worry and anxiety and overwhelm, but the acute stress of effort and cold and heat and pushing against resistance. The ancient Stoics understood this instinctively, which is why they practiced voluntary discomfort, why Seneca would sleep on hard floors and wear rough clothing and fast when food was abundant, not because he hated himself, but because he loved his freedom, because he understood that the man who needs comfort is enslaved to it, while the man who can endure discomfort is free. Lie number 3. Pain equals danger. Your body cannot distinguish between the pain of growth and the pain of injury, between the discomfort of expansion and the warning of actual damage. So it treats all pain as threat, all discomfort as danger, all challenge as risk to be avoided. But pain, the kind of pain that comes from pushing your limits, from sitting in the ice bath, from the burning in your muscles during the final repetitions, from the emotional exposure of vulnerability, from the creative struggle of making something new. This pain is not danger. It is information. It is feedback. It is the signal that you are at the edge of your current capacity, which is exactly where transformation happens. When you lift weights and feel the burn in your muscles, you are not damaging yourself. You are sending signals to your body that the current level of strength is insufficient for the demands you're placing on it. And in response, your body adapts, builds, becomes more than it was. When you sit in cold water and your body screams that you are dying, that you must get out immediately, that this is unbearable, you are not actually in danger if you have been smart and gradual in your approach. You're simply experiencing the gap between your body's predictions of what is safe and the reality of what you can actually endure. Your brain releases dopamine not during the comfort, not during the ease, not during the scrolling and the distraction, but after the effort, after you have pushed through the resistance, after you have done the thing your body begged you not to do. And this neurochemical reward is nature's way of encoding the lesson. Discomfort pursued voluntarily makes you stronger. Line number 4, fear means stop. Fear is perhaps the most persistent liar in your body's arsenal. The voice that has stopped more dreams than failure ever could. The sensation that has kept more people small than any external obstacle. Your amygdala, that ancient almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, cannot tell the difference between standing at the edge of a cliff where a fall would mean death and standing at the edge of a stage where you are about to give a presentation, between facing a predator in the wilderness and facing rejection from a potential partner, between actual mortal danger and simple social discomfort. It triggers the same cascade of stress hormones, the same acceleration of heart rate, the same flood of adrenaline, the same urgent message. Danger, retreat, escape, do not proceed. But your prefrontal cortex, the newer part of your brain, the part that can think abstractly and plan for the future and consider long-term consequences, knows something your amygdala does not. That most of what you fear is not dangerous, merely uncomfortable, not life-threatening, merely life-changing. Fear is not a wall that blocks your path. It is a compass that points directly toward the direction of your growth, toward the places where you most need to go, toward the version of yourself that exists on the other side of courage. The opportunities you fear the most are almost always the opportunities you need the most. The conversations you dread are the conversations that will set you free. The actions that terrify you are the actions that will define who you become. Line number 5, your feelings are truth. We live in an age that has made a religion of emotional authenticity, that tells you to trust your feelings, to follow your heart, to honor your emotional truth above all else. And while there is wisdom in not suppressing or denying your emotions, there is danger in confusing feelings with facts, sensations with reality. Your feelings are not truth. They're information, data points, signals from a nervous system that is constantly making predictions based on past patterns, on ancient programming, on associations that may no longer serve you. When you feel anxious about trying something new, that feeling is not telling you the truth about whether you should try it. It is telling you that your nervous system has detected novelty, which it has categorized as potential threat, because novelty in the ancestral environment often was threatening. When you feel unmotivated to do the work that you know will move you toward your goals, that feeling is not revealing some deep truth about what you should be doing with your life. It is revealing that your brain would prefer the immediate comfort of distraction over the delayed gratification of meaningful accomplishment. The Stoic philosophers built their entire system of thought around this distinction between what we feel and what is true, between impression and reality, between the initial reaction and the considered response. And they taught a simple practice: observe the feeling, acknowledge it, name it, and then choose your action based on your values and your reason, not on your impulses and your comfort. Your emotions are suggestions, not commands. Weather patterns moving through your inner landscape, clouds passing through the sky of your consciousness. And you, the aware observer, the conscious chooser, get to decide which feelings you act on and which you simply let pass. Act 3, when the lie becomes truth. Here is the paradox that will unlock everything. Your body is lying to you, telling you stories about danger and depletion and limits that are not real in your current environment. But these lies once kept your ancestors alive, once were the difference between survival and extinction, once were truth. The dopamine system that now enslaves you to your phone, that has you checking notifications every few minutes, that makes you crave the next hit of digital stimulation, was designed to motivate the search for food, for mates, for resources, for the uncertain rewards that required exploration and effort. In the ancestral environment, when your hunter-gatherer ancestors spotted a berry bush or tracked game across the savannah, dopamine was the neurochemical that made the effort feel worthwhile, that created the motivation to keep searching even when the outcome was uncertain, because without that motivation, Without that drive to pursue uncertain rewards, they would have starved. But now that same system is hijacked by technology designed explicitly to trigger it, by social media platforms that deliver tiny random rewards on variable schedules of reinforcement, by video games and streaming services and infinite scroll feeds that provide constant novelty without requiring any of the effort or risk that dopamine was meant to motivate. The social anxiety you feel, the fear of judgment and rejection, the hyper-awareness of how others perceive you. This was once a finely tuned survival mechanism, because in a world where you lived in tribes of 150 people, where your survival depended on your social standing, where exile meant almost certain death, reading social cues and maintaining your reputation was literally a matter of life and death. But now, when the tribe is every person who might see your post on social media, when the possibility of judgment comes from strangers who mean nothing to your actual survival, when rejection in one domain does not threaten your access to food or shelter or safety, that same social anxiety that once protected you now paralyzes you, keeps you from taking the risks necessary for growth, for connection, for the expression of your authentic self. The stress response that once saved your life when you encountered a predator, flooding your body with cortisol and adrenaline, sharpening your senses, preparing you to fight or flee, now activates when you see an email from your boss, when you think about your finances, when you lie awake at 3 in the morning replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. You are a lion who's been raised in a zoo, an apex predator whose instincts for hunting and ranging and defending territory are still intact, but whose environment provides no outlet for these instincts, no genuine challenges that match the intensity of your biological programming. This is why modern life feels so simultaneously easy and difficult, so comfortable yet so unsatisfying, because your body is calibrated for challenges you do not face and is sending you constant signals about threats that do not exist, while the actual challenges of modern life, the psychological and existential and spiritual challenges, do not register on its threat detection system. The Stoics understood this essential truth, that the path to freedom is not to eliminate the body's responses, but to develop the capacity to choose your actions consciously, to create space between stimulus and response, to act according to reason and virtue rather than according to impulse and comfort. They taught that discipline is not the absence of feeling, but the cultivation of the capacity to feel without being controlled, to experience the pull of desire or the push of aversion and still choose the wise action, the virtuous path, the difficult right instead of the easy wrong. ACT for reclaiming control. So how do you reclaim control from a body that is operating on outdated programming? How do you become a master rather than the slave of your biology? How do you transform from someone who is controlled by impulse and comfort and fear into someone who acts with intention and purpose and courage? The answer lies in the deliberate application of the very principle that shaped your ancestors. Hormesis, the use of controlled stress to build capacity, to expand limits, to teach your nervous system that it is safe to be uncomfortable, that you are capable of far more than your current boundaries suggest. Cold water, whether in the form of cold showers or ice baths, is perhaps the most accessible and powerful tool for this training. Because when you voluntarily immerse yourself in cold water, your body activates every alarm system it has, floods you with signals that this is dangerous, that you must get out immediately, that you are dying. And yet if you breathe and stay, you teach your nervous system a profound lesson, that its predictions of danger are not always accurate, that discomfort is not the same as damage, that you can override the screaming of instinct with the quiet power of will. Heat, in the form of saunas or hot baths extended beyond the point of easy comfort, teaches the same lesson from the opposite direction, training your body to sit with intense discomfort, to breathe through the urge to escape, to expand your window of tolerance for sensation. Physical effort, particularly the kind that takes you to the edge of your current capacity, whether through lifting weights or running hills, or any practice that creates that burning sensation in your muscles and that voice in your head that begs you to stop. This is where you build not just physical strength, but the psychological strength to continue when everything in you wants to quit. But here is what most people miss: the truth that separates those who transform from those who try and fail. Rituals are more powerful than motivation. Systems are more reliable than moods, and identity is stronger than any single action. You do not need to feel motivated to take the cold shower. You need a system where the cold shower happens every morning regardless of how you feel. You need to build your life in such a way that the difficult thing becomes the automatic thing, the default rather than the exception. You do not wait until you feel like working out. You become the kind of person who works out. You adopt the identity of someone who does not negotiate with comfort, who has already decided that discipline is not optional, that the voluntary acceptance of difficulty is simply who you are. The Stoics practiced what they called voluntary discomfort, deliberately choosing hardship when it was not required, sleeping on floors when beds were available, fasting when food was abundant, not as punishment, but as practice, as a way of training themselves to remain free even in the face of comfort, to maintain their capacity for endurance even when life was easy. They understood something that modern neuroscience has now confirmed: that your capacity is not fixed but plastic, not determined but trainable, and that every time you choose the difficult path, every time you act in accordance with your values rather than your impulses, you are literally rewiring your brain, strengthening the neural pathways of discipline and weakening the pathways of immediate gratification. There is an ancient principle that cuts through all the complexity and reveals the essential choice. You can choose your pain now, the pain of discipline, of early mornings and cold water and difficult conversations and consistent effort. Or you can choose your pain later, the pain of regret, of missed opportunities and unrealized potential, and the slow accumulation of compromises that eventually becomes a life you do not recognize. Both paths involve pain. Both require you to pay a price. But the pain of discipline weighs ounces while the pain of regret weighs tons. The pain of discipline makes you stronger while the pain of regret makes you bitter. The pain of discipline is conscious and chosen while the pain of regret is unconscious and imposed. To obey your body without question is to live in slavery, to be controlled by ancient programming that no longer serves you, to be a puppet of biology, but to understand your body, to decode its signals, to recognize the lies for what they are. This is mastery. This is freedom. This is the reclamation of your power as a conscious being. Finale, the new contract. You are not fighting against your body in this process of transformation. You are educating it. You are teaching an ancient survival system to operate effectively in a new environment. You are updating software that was written for a world that no longer exists. Your body tells you lies to protect you, whispers fears to keep you safe, pulls you toward comfort, because comfort once meant survival. And for these millions of years of faithful service, for keeping your ancestors alive long enough to pass their genes to you, your body deserves not contempt but gratitude, not hatred but understanding. But understanding does not mean obedience. Gratitude does not mean submission. And you, the conscious awareness that observes all of this, the part of you that can think about thinking and feel about feeling, you're not your body's servant. You are its teacher, its guide, its master. The goal is not to silence the body, not to become some kind of ascetic who denies all physical sensation and need, not to war against your own biology in pursuit of some impossible ideal of pure transcendence. The goal is to teach your body a new truth, to show it through repeated experience that discomfort can be safe, that effort can be sustainable, that you are capable of far more than your current programming suggests, that the real danger is not in challenge but in stagnation, not in discomfort, but in the slow atrophy that comes from a life lived entirely within the boundaries of comfort. When you step into the cold water every morning, you are not punishing your body. You're having a conversation with it. You're saying, I know you believe this is dangerous. I feel the fear you are generating. I acknowledge the alarm bells you're ringing, and I am choosing to stay anyway, because I know something you do not yet know, because I trust the wisdom of conscious choice over the tyranny of unconscious reaction. And over time, with consistency and patience and the steady accumulation of evidence, your body learns, your nervous system adapts, Your window of tolerance expands, and what once felt impossible becomes merely difficult. What once felt difficult becomes comfortable, and what once felt comfortable begins to feel like a cage you can no longer tolerate. This is the path of the modern Stoic. This is the way of conscious evolution. This is how you become the master that your body has been waiting for all along, the awareness that can guide instinct, the consciousness that can direct biology, the spirit that can shape matter. Your body is lying to you to protect you, and this is both the problem and the gift, both the challenge and the opportunity, both the chain and the key that will unlock it. Become the master your body once needed in a world of genuine danger and scarcity. And then, and only then, will it learn to obey you in this new world of phantom threats and artificial abundance. Teach it that you will take care of it, that you will not lead it into genuine danger, that you will honor its needs while not being enslaved to its wants, that you will push its boundaries while respecting its limits, that you are not its enemy, but its ally, not its oppressor, but its liberator. And in this teaching, in this patient daily, moment-by-moment practice of conscious choice over unconscious reaction, of reason over impulse, of wisdom over instinct, you will discover something extraordinary, that the power you have been seeking outside yourself, in motivation and inspiration and perfect conditions and ideal circumstances, has been inside you all along, waiting for you to claim it, to own it, to embody it. The body will whisper its lies. This will never change, because this is its nature, its function, its programming, but you, the aware one, the conscious chooser, the master of your fate, you will simply smile, acknowledge the voice, thank it for its service, and then do what you have decided to do anyway. This is freedom. This is mastery. This is the life that awaits on the other side of understanding. Now go and become a man.